Jed York and Kyle Shanahan had some things to say at their press conference. Let's get into it. What's going on? Sit time, two time with Sal Beasy. What's happening?
Not too much. Let's get into it, brother.
Okay, let's start off. Jump right into what Jed York said. I found his press conference very interesting because it seems like we've kind of been guessing all offseason what the 49ers think of Brock Purdy. What's their number that they're putting towards him? And we're hearing 30 mil, 35 mil. At some point, we're hearing 55, 60 easily. Jed York today seemed very comfortable on saying he wants to make Brock Purdy the highest paid player in franchise history. It was almost like he was so eager to upsell Brock Purdy to the media, and it came off believable. Like he wants to pay Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he's trying to show is that the 49ers want Brock Purdy to be the 49ers quarterback. Now, of course, there's negotiations going on, which, Kyle Shanahan mentioned, and John Lynch is clearly in the midst of this negotiation at this point in time. I think the 49ers have made it pretty clear that Brock Purdy's not going to get what he's wanting. And the reason why I say that is the deal would have been done by now. He's made it clear what he wants. His agents made it clear, and it just hasn't come to fruition. So I think the 49ers have made it clear that they're going to pay him what they want to pay him. And it's going to be ultimately up to Brock Purdy to sign the deal and prevent a possibility that his backup quarterback, who's newly signed, gets an opportunity to get first team reps if he doesn't sign. And I don't think a holdout is an option.
Okay, I would have agreed with you before I watched this video of Jed York speaking because, we always catch certain things John Lynch says that are like, okay, that's a negotiating tactic. Okay, he's trying to downsell Brock Purdy. Like, that's a message to his agent. If Jed York was doing that at all, he just gave Brock Purdy and his agent ammunition to ask for what they want. Because, when you're talking about the highest paid player in franchise history, that's a lot of money. And it seems like Jed York is okay with making that happen. Like, he specifically said that he got rid of a lot of players this year and cut a lot of costs so that it can go towards the quarterback. So right. It sounds like they're going to make him one of the highest paid players in the league. Like that's what I got. That's what I took from it.
It's true. That's what he's implying. But at the same time, the 49ers understand that when you pay a quarterback, there's going to be some things that happen to your roster. And that's, some players are going to start going out the door. You can't afford to keep them all. And that's just the reality of a salary cap. But the thing is, the 49ers got younger in this exodus of players that they lost. Again, we've talked about it multiple times. The only true player that really, really hurts and stings is Dre Greenlaw. And you've seen what Kyle Shanahan said. He said he flew out there with John Lynch and went to his house, his personal home, and made a last attempt to hang on to this young man. But I think it was a little too late, and, Dre Greenlaw moved on. But in terms of Brock Purdy, I think the 49ers, I truly believe this, are going to end up signing Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is going to be a 49er for a long time. I don't think there's a chance of a trade anymore. I really thought there was a chance of a trade. But I think the only way you get a trade is if Brock Purdy holds out or demands that $55 million range and it doesn't budge. But I think Brock Purdy is well aware that there's a lot of pushback, never mind just the 49ers. If you pay attention to the media, a lot of people talking about how he's not worth more than $55 million. So the reality is his agent and Brock Purdy are going to have to sit down and come to a conclusion that $55 million is unrealistic. Maybe the 49ers do go more than we expect and hit 45 or 50. I would be disappointed with that. I really believe that you can get him. Sorry, I would be happy with 45. I believe that's the correct number. We got Maj Sports in the comments. Shout out to Maj Sports. He said pay him 30. I don't know how serious he is about that because let's be honest, you're not getting Brock Purdy for $30 million. I'd love to pay him 30. It would be awesome if he was to accept that, but I just really don't believe that's a possibility. I think if you get Brock Purdy at $45 million, you can put a pretty damn good roster around him. The Niners are going to start with this draft. The ever important draft that's coming up is going to determine, what kind of defense we can expect in San Francisco this upcoming season. And I don't
Yeah.
care who's playing quarterback. If you don't got a good defense, you're going to struggle because you're going to be playing from behind quite a bit.
Yeah. I think we're giving the 49ers front office too much credit. I think we're being way too optimistic. I think it is just going to end at $55 million. I think it's going to end at what has been happening. History repeats itself. Players get what they want in San Francisco. I think they love Brock Purdy. I don't think they view him the same way. Like, my perspective has changed drastically after watching what what Jed York has had to say. Like, again, he made it clear. He's like, I'm not involved in contract negotiations. But like you said, he is the owner. At the end of the day, if he says give him what he wants, they're giving him what he wants. If they say don't sign him, they're not signing him. So I don't know. I think it's just going to end up. We're going to give him the $55 million and we're going to move on. And in a couple of years, it won't be so bad, but it's going to hurt this year, and it's probably going to hurt the year after. But it won't be so bad. I'm expect what 5-year contract. What do you think? It most likely.
Well, speculation was that it was a 3-year deal that the 49ers offered him right around $100 million. So if there's some truth to that, I don't believe the $55 million is going to happen. I really don't. And the reason why I'm going to continue saying that is I've said this in the past. If you had an elite quarterback by the name of Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or whoever it may be that's in the elite, there's only 4 in my opinion. If you had any of those 4, the deal would have been done. And the fact that he's not one of the elite quarterbacks in this league is the reason why this negotiation is still going on. And it's not to say that, big names haven't gone through long negotiations. They have. But Brock Purdy's demanding a pretty high number. And there's been a lot of pushback, whether it's the 49ers or people outside the building that really believe that that's a high number for a guy like that. Listen, I don't want to disrespect the name of Brock Purdy. Let's make something clear here. Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback in the NFL. Brock Purdy did a lot of big things in the playoffs. And the one that sticks out to me is the game that we went to in in San Francisco against Detroit. And, he made a lot of plays with his legs. He bought a lot of time. And I think his best attribute outside of throwing on time is his pocket presence combined with his legs. He escapes, he buys time. And sometimes if he needs to run for 10 yards to get us a first down and a crucial third down, he's willing to do that and he's able to do that. And he'll go and put his head down for that extra yard as well. So Brock Purdy is a very damn good quarterback. He's right on the borderline of 10. He's maybe outside looking in my opinion, like right around 10 or 11. So, Brock Purdy, he, in my opinion, he has an argument saying that he deserves 55, 60 because there's guys like Dak Prescott getting 60. There's, Tua getting 53. There's Lawrence getting 53 or whatever it is. But my pushback, if I was John Lynch on that is, what's the state of those franchises? Are they in a state of regret or are they happy with their deal? And I believe they're in a state of regret. So we don't want to join that list. And I don't think that that's a fair argument anymore to use, especially when he can push back and say, John Lynch can also say, look at Josh Allen, look at Patrick Mahomes, look at, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. They're all in the 50s. So those are the 4 elites. You don't deserve their money. 45 is realistic. 40 would be unbelievable.
Yeah. So I read today that Lamar Jackson isn't in contract negotiation right now for an extension. If that happens before Purdy gets signed, I don't know if that helps us or makes it worse. Like, let's say Lamar Jackson gets an extension. It's likely going to be around $60 million, I'd guess. Right? So, I don't know. I think these contract negotiations with Brock Purdy could easily be the 49ers are willing to pay 55, but he wants 60, or he's going to hold out until later on in the offseason and then he'll accept the 55. I don't have faith anymore after watching what Jed York said. I don't have faith that they're being as strong as we thought they were. I don't think so.
The only thing I'll say to that is that, okay, Jed York ultimately will sign the piece of paper that determines what the guy gets paid. But that paper gets brought to him by guys like John Lynch and others really smart people in the building that understand contracts and, how they'll break it down and how it benefits the team, spreading it over the years and stuff like that. And those people have made it pretty damn clear that, they don't believe he's worth $55 million. We've heard contract offers around 45. We've heard contract offers around 33, 34. So those offers seem to be more realistic in terms of where he's at. I think 33 is, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get a Baker Mayfield discount here. 49ers are going to pay $45 million for this guy or more. And if they're lucky, they get the $45 million year. There's a comment here, somebody saying that, unfortunately, there's another desperate team out there willing to pay him $55 million. My answer to that is the 49ers can simply say to him, if that's what you want, if you truly believe that there's another team out there, you can go and play under another system that's not Kyle Shanahan and risk it all. And, you might get that money, but, everybody wants to end with a good legacy. I think these quarterbacks, when they get to that level, they're not just playing for money anymore. And I really feel if you understand the character of Brock Purdy, he's not just playing for money. And this is another reason why the 49ers are being aggressive with negotiations, is that they're aware that they can talk him down. And that's what's happening. Brock Purdy's considered a really nice guy. It's funny when you're talking about the player, sometimes they don't talk about his on-field stuff. John Lynch will mention what he's like off the field. And the reason why he's doing that is he's making it clear that, Brock Purdy's a good guy and Brock Purdy's going to settle.
The last thing I'll bring up of what Jed York said, I found it pretty interesting. It was like, I don't know how much weight it really carries, but he used the term "we" when he said, "We decided that we want to pay Brock Purdy halfway through last season."
Yeah.
So I would assume "we" is John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, right? And possibly Parag. I don't know how much he has to do with personnel. I think he does have some to do with personnel, but he has a lot to do with contracts. So I don't know. When you say that, it's like he just kept pushing this narrative. I got so discouraged because I want the $45 million contract to come, but I got so discouraged when he kept talking about highest paid franchise player and one of the highest paid in the league. I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to wait to find out, like we've been for the past how many months.
Yeah, I think at this point it's a waiting process. The 49ers have a goal of signing him before April 15th. I think Brock Purdy has the same goal. I think Brock Purdy wants to be at OTAs. And I don't really think he wants to share the first string position with anybody.
100%. He doesn't want Mac Jones getting first team reps. And he doesn't want to leave. Like, they'll be willing to, but he doesn't want to leave a sour taste in the team's mouth. Like, he doesn't want to. You don't want to shake that up. You don't want to do that. Like,
one thing before we move on, let's make it clear. The 49ers have the leverage. He can be simply playing for $5 million this season on his last year of his contract. And then he can be franchise tagged for $35 million and then $41 million the following year. So regardless, he's not making more if he waits. And the Niners know that. So he can sign 45. He makes, way more money this upcoming season and, the following seasons, as opposed to settling for $5 million, which he would have to do if he wants to stay on the 49ers, or hold out, which I don't believe is an option for Brock Purdy. And then the 49ers can tag him for 2 years. And it would be an ugly situation, something that neither side wants. They're going to settle. They're going to come to an agreement here sooner than later.
Yeah, really, like you said, that the 49ers hold all the cards. The only thing that could come from that is Brock Purdy asking for a trade. And like you said, it almost seems like it wouldn't be hard to talk him out of that. Because like you said, those other franchises aren't in a great spot. And if you take yourself away from Kyle Shanahan, last season is sort of replicate what that would be, because last season was not Kyle Shanahan. Last
season's the first time I've been a fan of the 49ers and watching Kyle Shanahan offense that I felt like he went away from his system and said, let's lean on this quarterback. Yeah. And, you've seen that, the play calling was a lot different. There was no more one-look reads. It was more so scanning the field. And that affected Brock Purdy's numbers. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of missing pieces last year, a lot of injuries on the front, in terms of the O-line. You had injuries with Brandon Ayuk. You had injuries with Christian McCaffrey. Those are big names.
But it's arguably still better. It's a better roster than if he were to get traded. He'd be going to a worse roster than what he had last year.
It's true, but outside the O-line was decimated. You had a left tackle who's an all-pro. He's not there. You get a young guy going in there. The center has never been a good center in the league, in my opinion. It's funny that Kyle Shanahan thought that he's a pretty good center. You put him around 10th in the league. I think that's crazy talk. All you got to do is put on the tape and watch him on the run plays. He did say he's a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker. Well, I'll tell you, if you're wondering why the 49ers got stopped on 4th and 1, I don't know how many times this season, It had a lot to do with Jake Brendel being pushed back right into the freaking A gap, and clogging that gap and not giving a seam for the back to find a way to get a yard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's move into Shanahan because we watched his press conference. The thing I noticed instantly is that he didn't age 20 years like regular. Seriously, coming off of offseason, this guy usually looks like, wow, you aged. But no, he looked good. He looked clean. His aura was up. Like he seemed happy. He seemed confident. He was answering questions and he wasn't snapping back at anyone. I liked what I seen. Now, a specific quote I liked from Kyle Shanahan is he said he's never been so eager and excited to start a season. And I love that. I think if we get a confident Shanahan and a relaxed Shanahan,
Well, I think what needs to happen is Shanahan needs to go back to his creative ways. And we know every third play, we're looking at each other and saying, wow, look at that play. We need to go back to that offense. It doesn't matter if you have a really good quarterback in the name of Brock Purdy. Let's just pretend Brock Purdy's not that great. Let's play the Jimmy G style and make it real easy on the quarterback. Brock Purdy can do a lot more than Jimmy G, but Brock Purdy doesn't need to be asked to win off his arm. And, let's make it easier on him. And I think that starts with the draft. Now, I wanted to dive into this real quick here. Anybody that's a 49er fan understands the importance of this draft. It's probably the most important draft of John Lynch's career. Mm-hmm. And he's had some bad ones and he's had some good ones. And he's found a lot of good players late. This is the year to do that. This is the year because he's going to have his early picks. He's got to hit on those, but he's got to do his thing that he's been doing in the past years, and that's been hitting in the 5th round.
Yeah, and he made it pretty clear, like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, both in their press conference, both said that this is an extremely important draft and they cannot afford to mess up. And it's true. You guys can't afford to mess up. Now, I find it contradicting how they also say there's not as much holes in the roster as other people think. But yeah, admit that this is an extremely important draft. But yeah, so let's get into the O-line. He said Jake Brendel's top 10. He loves Jake Brendel. John Lynch said the same thing. Is this just denial? Like they're not stupid people.
No, I don't think you go on TV either and say that you got a hole when there's a starter that's still on the roster. So I think your job as a coach and as a GM is to try to make it sound better than it actually is. I mean, they're not going to come out and say, yeah, he's terrible. That's definitely not going to happen. But, Jake Brendel does a few things well, and that's what he talked about. He focused on that, and he didn't mention his run blocking issues because there are a lot of issues when it comes to the run. And, he even overrated him as a pass blocker. I think the best thing that Jake Brendel brings to the table is his protection schemes. I think he's, that's between him and Kyle Shanahan. That's not between Brock Purdy and Shanahan. That is strictly between Jake Brendel and Kyle Shanahan. He calls the fronts, he calls the pass protection, and he's been doing a good job at that because the 49er offensive line has never been an elite O-line, but yet they still get it done.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would have preferred Kyle Shanahan to show some, show that you want to address it a little bit more. Show that you take it a little more serious. Like when the D-line conversation got brought up, a reporter asked Shanahan, do you see any clear starter on the defensive line other than Nick Bosa? And Shanahan he didn't get snappy. Like I said, he didn't get snappy, but this is, I guess, the most sarcastic response he gave of that press conference. He goes, yeah, I see 2 clear starters, actually. And then the reporter asked to name them, and he said, well, they're very clear, so you should be able to figure it out yourself.
Right.
And it's like
he didn't want to answer it, but I think the 49ers need to just address D-line. I think if you go into this draft with every intention of filling the void right now, it's blaring. It's an elephant in the room. The Niners do not have a D tackle that is worth mentioning on the roster as of right now. And the good guys are gone. They're older guys, and the Niners are going in a different direction, and they're going young. So they let the old guys go, and now it's strictly on the draft. So they need to hit on 2 D tackles. They need to hit on an edge. This is like the craziest year of holes. Like to expect to hit on all these positions is almost impossible, but these are the holes. They have a hole at edge. They have a hole at D tackle, 2 of them, not 1. They could use a corner because they lost Charvarius Ward. Renardo Green will step up to fill the starting role, but they'll still need a third corner because Lenore will play the slot.
Mhm.
And then you lost Dre Greenlaw, so there's a linebacker issue. And then you lost Hafunga. Now you have a safety in Jair Brown that's going to be forced to get back onto the field, who left the field due to bad play and missing tackles. Now, can Jair Brown go back to the way he was in his first season? I think it's possible. I mean, it's possible to have a down year as a player and regain your confidence in the offseason, have a good offseason, come back strong. So we're going to need that from him. And then Malik Mustafa will fill the other safety. So in reality, you're looking for a starting safety, maybe. If Jair Brown is able to fill it, then great. But you're definitely looking for a replacement for Greenlaw, 2D tackles, and an edge player. And that's 4 starters on the defense that I expect the draft to fill. And if it doesn't fill it, I don't even know who they go with. That's what's funny. I mean, Winters is an option for linebacker. We know that. And that's a guy that shows some promise for sure. But D-line, I really don't feel like we have an answer. You know, Matos is a guy that's very unproven, couldn't stay healthy. D-tackle, there's just a gaping hole. There's not even a name worth mentioning.
Well, the thing is, like, even if you were to find 4 starters, we kill it in the draft, you find 4 starters, it's like we just need depth, period, because these guys aren't all going to stay healthy. Getting younger helps, and let's assume that our team's healthier next year, but these guys aren't all going to stay healthy. That's why your expectations can be through the roof this year, regardless, even if we do hit in the draft, because we don't have depth at these positions. We don't have depth at linebacker. Even if we hit on 2 D tackles, we're not going to have depth at the D tackle position. We don't have depth at the edge. And we're riding with a very questionable safety in Jair Brown, and we need to draft one for depth, whether he plays or not. We need to draft these guys. So it's a massive draft. Joe says Jalen Walker or Mike Green is the move if they don't move up. Mike Green is a giant who can play inside as well. I like Jalen Walker. We're both massive fans of Jalen Walker. Mike Green is a beast as well. I have taken Jalen Walker a lot in the mock drafts recently, but I'm slowly moving towards Kenneth Grant or a D tackle in the first round. I want to address that right away. Like, I love Kenneth Grant. He's a monster.
The reason for me that Jalen Walker is the pick, if he's there, is because Jalen Walker is a 4.5 40 who can also play linebacker. So if the 49ers can play Matos on first and second down and let him play the Greenlaw position, then D Winters comes in on third down, who's a great cover guy, and he moves up to edge. I think that really, really fixes a big problem on the 49er defense. Now, D Winters, I don't want to take anything away from him. That's not to say to keep him off the field. It's just you're getting a guy that can help you in 2 positions, who runs a 4.5 40. And if you watch his tape, he's everywhere making plays. It's sideline to sideline football when you watch Jalen Walker.
No, it is for sure. I see Jalen Walker climbing in a lot of mock drafts. I see a lot of people predicting that he gets drafted at 8 to the Carolina Panthers. Apparently, the Panthers have shown a lot of interest in him. So, these are things that Niners is going to be talking about in their offices, and they're going to be ready for whatever scenario. I'm not mad with Kenneth Grant. I'm not mad with Jalen Walker. If it's one of those 2, I'm happy. I'm excited. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. But this is a massive draft. And I just like that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch both acknowledge it, and they're not going in like the typical, this is a regular draft and we're going to do our due diligence.
Yeah, for sure.
They know what's on the line.
Yeah, and one thing that came out today that's big news for the 49ers is that Brandon Ayuk is going to remain a 49er. And, me being a selfish fan is very happy the fact that Brandon Ayuk did not get traded. But as the owner of the 49ers, it's not a good day for him because he's paying $22 million to him. And he would have saved $120 million over his contract. And so basically, if it was up to Jed York, he would have got dealt. Now, the reason why he didn't get dealt is because he destroyed his knee. And, the doctor came out and said something along the lines that he's recovering well. It's possible that he could be back even as early as week 1, which I feel like is a massive stretch and hard to believe. I expect him anywhere from week 5 and after that. But regardless, it's good news because we would have got nothing in return. It would have been just all intents and purposes of getting rid of his contract, it would have probably been a 6th or 7th round pick. And that's what would have happened. But because nobody was willing to take on that contract due to the injury, he remains a 49er. And I believe that, if he gets a really good rehab, we got a shot at getting a really good player back.
Yeah, I guess the only way this could completely bite the Niners in the ass is if he comes back a horrible player. Because then you obviously cannot trade him, and they'd probably just cut him and eat the dead cap, is what my guess would be. So I think he'll come back fine.
I think, just to respond to Joe, Mikael Williams is the same type of player as Jalen Walker, just not as good, if you ask me. But same type of player. So, I mean, if Jalen Walker's off the board and you're the 49ers and the D tackle that you're hoping for, see, the thing is Kenneth Grant is technically a reach at 11. And I think the 49ers know that. So there's a possibility that they would go Mikael. So,
I mean, Kenneth Grant's predicted around 15 to 17.
Well, I've seen him at 19, and then, he slowly made his way up to like 16, 17.
Yeah. So,
but I mean,
if they love a guy, they'll do it.
Right. And Kenneth Grant is the like, when you're looking for an anchor playing a 1 tech or a 3 tech, he's not going to get pushed around.
He does not.
No, that's definitely a guy that you'd be comfortable, drafting. It's just, I feel like at 11, I think we need more of a difference maker. I'm not saying that he can't be that guy. I just feel more sold on guys like Jalen Walker. I really do. And Jalen Walker has been my guy since the beginning. Ever since I seen his film and I seen that it's possible that we get him at 11, that's the guy I want.
I like that thinking. The only thing that worries me is that if you take Jalen Walker, there's a chance you don't establish the D tackle position this year. Because there is no guarantee. There's no guarantee in the first round. Never mind the second round. It's not a guarantee.
I think you're getting this draft is loaded at the position. I think you're getting a star in second round. I really do. I think
it's easy to say that, Sal, but there's going to be a lot of busts, like there always is.
Of course there is. But I think this is the year of D line, and the fact that our hole is D line, we're very, very lucky that this happens to be the year we're in need of a D line, in specific D tackle and 1 edge player. So I think the 49ers take the best player at 11 between edge and D tackle is the best way to put it. I don't believe that corner is an option. Will Johnson, if he's there, I think that's crazy. Yes, corner is a need, but it's not a need like D tackle. It's not a need like an edge rusher. The 49ers need to address the front 7. They need to go back to the old style that, got them to the Super Bowl. And that was pressure on the opposing quarterback and constantly, creating turnovers. You don't need the greatest back end when you're getting pressure like that. The Philadelphia Eagles, their back end was good, not nearly as good as their front 7.
Right. The only position you cannot extremely help massively on the defense is the D tackle. They're getting pushed around. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it all game. So you could help a bad corner, you could help a bad safety out. You cannot help 2 bad D tackles.
So one of the hardest things to do is do a projection for the 49ers season, especially because the draft is not completed. So we don't know where the 49ers are going to go exactly. We have an idea, but we don't know for sure. So if we're going to say that we want to make a prediction on what the 49ers are going to do this season, go ahead and tell me what you think is going to be. Obviously, it's prior to the draft, so you're a little up against it, but it's just
what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up their opponents so we can get this as close as possible.
Right. Like that's the one thing the 49ers definitely have in their favor this season for once is that their schedule is in favor of the 49ers better than they've had in the past by a mile.
By a mile. Like that. If we didn't have this schedule, I'd be calling for a bad season. I'm not going to lie. I would be.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So let's start at home. Okay, we'll start with the division. So we got the Seattle Seahawks. I call win right away. I think they got hurt this year big time.
I think the only way we can be comfortable that the 49ers are going to win these division games is if they address the defense, and I believe they will. So let's just pretend that they did. Go ahead and you make your picks, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Okay, so I'll go a win against the Seahawks. I'll take a loss against the Rams. They got a better quarterback. They got Devontae Adams. They addressed that front seven last year in the draft. They're only going to get better. The Cardinals, I'll take 1 win, 1 loss. I'll do the same with the Rams, and I'll take 2 wins against the Seahawks. So that's the division, home and away. Home, the Falcons, I'll take a loss. And I'm saying that because I do think Penix will have somewhat of a better, he'll get it going this year, and because it's hard to stop that run game. So if we have a questionable front seven, I'll take a loss against the Falcons.
You're at 3-4.
Okay. I'll take a win against the Panthers. I'll take a win against the Jags. I'll take a win against the Titans. I'll take a loss against the Bears.
6-5.
6-5. Okay. I'll take a win against the Saints. I'll take a loss against the Buccaneers. I'll take a loss against Houston. I'll take a loss against the Colts. And I'll take a win against the Giants and a win against the Browns. What does that put me at?
9-8.
9-8. I said before 10-7 without looking at the schedule. So there's my official with looking at the opponents. 9-8.
I mean, it is a fair judgment. I mean, it's so hard to say because the draft is not done and we don't know what we've got from the draft. But
sorry. Joe said Colts is a win, and I gave them a loss because they do have one of the best O-line in the game, and if we don't have that front seven, like, we can't expect these rookies to handle one of the best O-line in the football in the NFL. So I'll take, if you can't win in the trenches, it's hard to win football games. That's why I gave them a loss.
Okay, I'm going to go through this real quick. I think the 49ers, I think they need a rebound with the Cardinals. I think it's going to be hard to win both because Kyler Murray in specific gives the 49ers problems. For whatever reason, the 49ers struggle with scrambling quarterbacks. Yeah. And he seems to get our number. But I think this year, I'm not going to say 2-0. I think they'll go 1-1 with them. I think they'll split. I think they're going to split with the Rams. And this is, again, me assuming that the 49ers have dressed D tackle and one edge player. Now, easier said than done. But I do believe the Niners understand the importance of drafting those positions. So I think their first 3 picks are going to go along those lines. Now, the only outside chance of them not going D-line in their first 3 picks is an offensive lineman. I hope they don't do it. I think that you can get a guy like Tate Ratledge in the 4th round, and I'm good with that. And that's a center, who can help out in many ways. And, the 49ers talked about, Barch getting an opportunity, Hennessy getting an opportunity at left guard. Spencer Burford's going to be possibly the swing tackle this year that Jalen Moore was last year. So I wouldn't go first 3 rounds O-line. Anyway, so we're at 2-2. I think they do sweep the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks made a big mistake in getting Sam Darnold. But we'll see. 4-2. I'm going to say they're going to beat Penix. I'm going strictly off of the fact that I think the 49ers don't have an issue on offense. Yes, there's an issue on O-line that could be better, but they are getting Trent Williams back. It's a massive piece. So as long as they stay healthy and they can, bring 1 or 2 guys in from the draft, which I think is very likely, I think the offense is not something to be concerned about. Carolina Panthers is a win. The Jaguars is a win. The Titans is a win. I think the Bears is a win.
You're at 9-2 right now.
And that's strictly because of how terrible this schedule is. Yeah. But they are going to get some losses here.
You don't give some more credit to the Bears? You're not excited for their offense here?
Not yet. And not until I see it on tape. I mean, it's easy to say that. We a lot of people thought that was going to be something we would see this past season. And, it didn't go that way. So I think in Cleveland is a loss. And that's because the 49ers don't do well in cold weather. And it's going to depend on when that game is, but they don't. Brock Purdy's not a cold weather quarterback, and that's a really good defense in Cleveland. So I think the Texans will beat the Niners as well. Indianapolis Colts is an interesting one. because they do have a great O line and they have a good D line. And then Charvarius Ward's there now too, which is pretty cool. I think
Mixed
that's a
with the
tough.
Russian quarterback.
I know, and that is a tough pick. But I don't think that Russian quarterback's really good at scoring points right now. So it's hard to say. So maybe the Niners keep it close and get an ugly win. I'm going to give them an ugly win.
Yeah.
I think the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans is probably a loss, unfortunately, depending on how the year is going with Brock Purdy and the defense and what kind of year they're going to bring forward. The thing that always gives me confidence is Robert Saleh. I'll get into that if you want. New York Giants is in win, and Tampa Bay Bucks is a loss.
11-5.
Which is what I said. I would assume between 10-7. Sorry, what did you say? 11-5. It's got to be 12-5, or 11-6.
12.
Yeah.
5.
So I thought the Niners season would be 11-6. So I wasn't too far off. And the only reason why I say that is because I believe in coaching. So I believe that Kyle Shanahan is going to have a rebound year. He's going to bring his creativity back, and the Niners schedule favors them. And then I really, really believe in Robert Saleh. He's built the defense in San Francisco before, and he's built a defense in New York, and he's going to build another defense. And that way they do that is through this year's draft.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess we're expecting a successful season. And that's because of the schedule. It helps a lot. So going into playoffs, how much confidence would you have if your team went 12-5? You called?
Yeah, it was either 12-5 or 11-6. The way I see it is it's a successful season for the 49ers with a bunch of young guys getting to the playoffs. Now, if they win a wild card game, that would be unbelievable. But they have no shot of getting past that next round, the divisional round, because I think the Detroit Lions will be around, and I think teams like the Rams could be there, and obviously the Philadelphia Eagles. And I just don't believe the 49ers will have enough in the tank to play with those guys. Those are the true contenders. Those are the big boys of the league on the NFC side of the ball. And there's also the Washington Redskins. Let's not forget about them. The Green Bay Packers. There's a lot of good teams on the NFC side right now. I don't think the 49ers are one of the elite ones. So, no, they don't get past the divisional round. You get there, and that's a big year.
Yeah. It's good that the year we decided to get younger is the year that we have a pretty weak schedule. I mean, teams learning how to win in the NFL is a real thing. The Chiefs 100%. Know how to win. The Eagles know how to win. So it helps. These young guys are going to learn how to win.
It's exactly so. The 49ers before 2019 had a bunch of young players coming in and getting early success. Yeah. And what that does is when you keep adding to that roster, even if it's Jimmy G, they've done exactly what you just said. They've learned how to win games, and that applies in the NFL because in the fourth quarter in crunch time, those players do the right things. They're not the reason why they lose. They are actually the reason why they win, obviously accompanied by coaches like Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh.
Yeah, so it's really good we got the week schedule. Let's boost these young players' confidence. Let's learn how to win early. It's big. Is there anything else that Kyle Shanahan said that we're missing out on? Can't think of nothing.
No, that was pretty much it that I took away from it. I will say it was funny how you said, his demeanor was very positive. And, Grant Cohn asking him questions is a guy that really seems to get under his skin. Yeah. And instead of showing that, he almost showed like he enjoyed his presence and enjoyed his questions, answered them truthfully and gave him his time. And that's something that, when you watch Kyle Shanahan, it wasn't like that last year. Obviously losing is very frustrating and it shows sometimes. And right now we're in an off season and, he's not going through it. So, that might be the reason why you've seen a different guy. But at the same time, I think people grow. There's been a lot of negative things about Kyle Shanahan being very stubborn. And, maybe we're seeing some growth here. It's very possible. The one thing, people can say whatever they want about Kyle Shanahan. I'll take him as my coach because he's gotten me to the Super Bowl twice. He's got me to an NFC championship. 2 NFC championships outside of that. And, the last guy to do something similar to that was Andy Reid, and they dealt him off, and now he's in Kansas City winning rings. I don't want to see the same thing happen. Let him win his rings in San Francisco. Hang on to him. Let's go through this tough time. And then when we get through this and they put this next team together, if he can't do it that time, then you can label him the choke artist that he's been labeled, and we move on. But success is not easy in the NFL. NFC championships, Super Bowls, a lot of teams would be okay with that type of success. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to win one, but I think people need to pump their brakes on Kyle Shanahan.
Well, I think at the end of the day, the fans aren't okay with it. If the fans are going to the Super Bowl, they expect to win. So I think that's where it comes from. Now, I've been on the side of move on from Kyle Shanahan, fire Kyle Shanahan. I've been on that side. I think Kyle Shanahan can grow a little bit if he could mature a little bit, maybe not be so stubborn, maybe, like you're not all that Shanahan and move on from his ego a little bit. I think that's massive for him. I think that's when you'll start winning big time games. I think if he does that, he's easily one of the best coaches in the league. He's close to one of the best coaches in the league while he's like that. So, yeah, Shanahan's success comes down to him, really. He has the football knowledge. He's extremely creative. I think who he has been as a person has been holding him back a little bit.
It's very possible. So we're going to have a show on Friday with my head coach from college, Steve Samara. We haven't set a time for that. And we have a show tomorrow at 3 p.m. with the fastest man at the CFL draft. This past draft, he hit a 4.41. Combine. He hit a 4.41 40. His name is, go ahead.
Opie Ashinobi. Yeah.
I wanted you to say the name because of the name. Say it again.
Yeah. Opie Ashinobi. Yeah, he'll be on tomorrow at 3 o'clock. He ran a 4.41. It's the fastest by far in the CFL Combine this year. And I don't know what round he's kind of projected to go in, but I guess we'll hear from him tomorrow.
One thing's for sure in football, you can't teach speed. And the guy runs a 4.41. That gives you the ability as a coach to work with him and turn him into what it is that you want. Obviously, he's got to be a football player. And, if he's made his way to the CFL Combine, I'm sure you can work with him and create him to be whatever it is you want him to be. But yeah, that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Hit the like button. Drop a comment about future topics that you wish we would speak about. And hopefully we can touch on that. And until next time, we will see you guys.
Thanks for watching.
Take it easy.